Hi everyone, we have Celeste with us and she's going to talk us through a very important concept how exactly we can really heal even difficult, complex issues like trauma and sleep with yoga therapy. So, first of all, a very warm welcome to you, Celeste.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm
Thank
pleased to be
you.
here.
Thank you. Celeste, tell me how exactly do you think yoga can actually help in. Let's start with sleep. How exactly we can resolve sleep issues, sleep disorder with yoga?
Well, yoga is multifaceted. I think part of the problem is in the United States, we think of yoga is only about movement practice, and there's a lot more to yoga than just movement. The first thing that I recommend to people who are having trouble sleeping is that they start to notice their breath. So oftentimes sleep issues come from anxiety or stress. So a lot of times because environmental stress, you've been watching the news before you go to bed, or something else has happened in your day and you're thinking about that and your mind is racing over those things. It's very helpful if you have a meditation practice. Meditation can be helpful, but the first thing that I would suggest to people is that they start to regulate their breathing. And it's an easy thing to do, first placing one hand on your belly and one hand on your chest, right? And begin to notice as you inhale and exhale what you feel moving. What do you feel, your chest or your belly? Both?
Yeah.
Both. Okay. Um, which do you feel most?
Belly.
Belly. Okay, you've practiced. Okay. Many times, people who have anxiety or depression or issues with trauma and sleep tend to breathe more in their chest and less in their belly. And so, what that means is that the diaphragm area is contracted and tight. So, the diaphragm actually cannot move so that people can take a full deep breath. And what that results in is a lack of oxygen because we're not breathing well. And if you don't get enough oxygen and your carbon dioxide ratios are off, it creates anxiety. So if you're already anxious and you're breathing like that, it makes it worse. So the first thing that I tell people is hand on the belly, hand on the chest. And if you notice that the belly is tight, to consciously release the muscles in your abdomen so that you can expand your breathing more, so you get more air in. Because air, when you breathe in, the first place that the air goes is down. It goes down into the lower part of the lungs first and then fills up. If all you're doing is if you're contracting the lower body, the lower abdomen, then all you have is the space up here, up in the chest. And so you're not getting enough air. And if you can do that, you may start to feel yourself. You do that for, no, 3 minutes. Just breathe with relaxing the belly. I call it soft belly breath. If you do that and you close your eyes and you breathe like that, you may actually start to feel yourself yawning and getting tired because your body's getting enough oxygen now and it can relax. And what happens is the anxiety starts to melt and you start to feel a little bit more easy. And that would be the first thing that I would suggest for people who have issues with sleep. The other thing is a gentle movement practice before bedtime is not a bad thing at all, but it has to be gentle and um, it has to be more like forward folding rather than big expansion. We like in the United States, a lot of people like these big flow practices, open hips, you know, they think, if I do a lot of downward dog and a lot of sun salutes, that I'll tire myself out. In fact, the opposite is true. So you don't want to be doing big asana practice. You want to be doing relaxing asana practice. Legs up the wall, Viparita Karani, or if you have bolsters and you want to do a restorative practice, there's a lot of restorative practices available online. I have one available on YouTube. But if you do a restorative practice before you go to sleep, it helps the body to rest. It helps the body to get into the mood for relaxation and sleep. You don't want to be doing energetic practices. It won't make you tired. It will energize you and you will be up much later than you would.
So, Celesta, you mentioned a very important point. It's important to have enough oxygen in the body all through the day, but it's also very important to feel sleepy, to really have that much of oxygen that body can feel comfortable to sleep. Is that
Mhm. That's true. And another thing that happens with people that have sleep issues is um, is that they may go to sleep okay, but they have problems with waking up every couple of hours after they get to sleep for 3 hours and then they wake up and then they can't get back to sleep. So there is a breath practice for that. It's called left nostril breathing, right? Cover it. So you just turn on your side. It's easy. You turn on your right side with your hand over your right nostril and breathe from your left. Just breathe from the left side. It stimulates the nadis, and the nadi that is the energy channel that is being stimulated when you're breathing into your left nostril um, is the one that is connected to your parasympathetic nervous system, which is what allows you to relax.
wow? That's a secret one. Okay, that was
It is
interesting.
it is a secret one. It's a wonderful one, right? It's like the Surya Beta is the right. I'm trying to remember the Sanskrit and what I don't remember what, but you want to breathe from the left nostril because it will shift you into a parasympathetic state, which is where you want to be when you're trying to get to sleep.
Sure, thank you. Let's come to the next one, which is a little more complicated. When we're really trying to work on any trauma, how do you think yoga can actually help heal complex traumas?
Well, trauma, they have the more recent scientific work on trauma has come pretty clear that trauma is stored in the tissues of the body. We hold onto the the chemical soup that is created in trauma and it gets stored in our tissues. And my favorite phrase on that was, I did not create it, but I love it. It's the issues are in our tissues. And it's true. Okay. We hold that trauma in our bodies. If you've ever noticed, if you're in a yoga class, sometimes people will be doing yoga and they'll start to shake. And that usually freaks them out. They're like, oh no, I shouldn't be doing that. And in fact, what they're doing is their body is releasing those chemicals from the tissues of the body when they're shaking. It's a good thing. So how yoga helps is, you could spend years in psychotherapy trying to deal with trauma, but if you can access what's happening in your body, you'll move it through much faster. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't also go to a therapist if you feel that that's necessary, but even therapists today are acknowledging the reality that you have to get the body moving, because it's one of the things that happens with trauma is we tend to shut down. Um, Pain is part of that, because as we hold the trauma in our bodies, we also develop pain syndromes that go with that. Fibromyalgia is one of those where, they've said for years, we don't know what causes it. They're coming to the reality that fibromyalgia is a stress related disease. It happens because of the trauma in our lives. People who have lived with childhood trauma frequently end up with a lot of physical pain, and it limits their ability to do things. And the answer is to move and to continue to move. Don't let yourself get into this place where you just hide in this little shell. It's important to continue moving so that your body can heal. And the longer you stay stuck, the more stuck you will stay. It's important to to work that through. The other thing, again, is breath, because as you're moving, if you can coordinate your movement with your breath, what you'll find is that that can be really helpful um, for you mm, to get into a more regulated state of mind. We have a tendency to go, trauma survivors, and I am one, so I'll speak for that. Um, we have a tendency to lose ourselves. Somebody will say something, and it doesn't even have to be a big thing. It's a word, it's a phrase, it's a tone of voice, it's a smell, it's a color, it's a something. and we're not present anymore. It's called dissociation. Um, and it's kind of shaming inside when we realize an hour later that people have been talking and we haven't even heard what they said. You know, we feel ashamed of that. And it isn't something that we have a lot of control over initially. It's just something that happens as we become more aware of the triggers that we have that bring that on. We can become aware of it when it happens. We'll notice it as we kind of go away, and we can bring ourselves back. And when we bring ourselves back, it's important to do something to keep yourself here. Now, tapping is an answer that a lot of people use, and tapping is wonderful. But the other things that can work is just movement. There's a practice that I use with clients a lot, and it's coordinating movement and breath. And it's like, so you start by exhaling, turning your head in one direction, inhaling center, exhaling the other way, inhaling center, back and forth from side to side, moving your eyes with your head. And then at some point, you might move an arm and bring it down, and move the other arm and bring it down. So you're moving coordinated breath and movement, coordinating body movements. If you're standing, you could lift a leg. You could, lift both legs. You could continue to move like this. It will keep you present. Now, the thing about that is of course, this is going to be something that you're not going to want to do if you're in a big room crowded with people, okay? But it can work for you if you have the space that you can just step to the side somewhere and do a little bit of that. If you can't do that, you can still breathe through it. You can start to count your breath and create practices called even breath, that I like a lot, because your inhale and your exhale are the same length. And it's just inhaling for whatever that count. You can count the breath in and let your exhale be the same. Just inhale and exhale. And it keeps you focused and right here, so that you're counting your breath in and you're counting your breath out. You know exactly where you are. You know exactly what's happening because you are counting your breath.
So, Celeste, in one line, what I understood is if at all we have to heal trauma with yoga, we need to learn to be present in now,
Yes.
right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly right.
Awesome. Thank you. One last question, Celeste, which is very
Sure.
important again. When we are really talking about yoga and coordinated breathing and focusing on breathing, a lot of times it's difficult to have that patience. It's
Mhm.
difficult to really move with coordinated breath. It's easier to move without the coordination of breath. How can we really remind ourselves again and again that if at all we are coordinating breath, we are actually having much more benefits? Is there a phrase, a mantra, a slogan, a quote that you want to share with the audience just to tell them that it's not about movement only, it's about
Uh-huh.
coordinating movement with breath?
So I would say start with your breath. Let the breath create the movement, because you are moving as you breathe. Your body is moving even if you're sitting still. The breath is creating movement in your body, and as you feel your belly move out, as you inhale, maybe you raise one arm and drop it, and then if you do the other one, and release. So consider that expansion and contraction of breath is just being mirrored in your body, expanding and contracting as you move.
Yeah.
Right?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Celeste, for this amazing conversation and helping our viewers understand the importance of yoga, breath work, and coordinating movement. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Judy. I appreciate it. I want to say one more thing.
Thank you.
The mind will lie to you, but the body always tells the truth.
Sure. We'll remember that. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Bye bye.